I'm gonna
Have you
now. I have to
have you
wait till
skeeted?
because we're now on Riverside. Things change, so I can't actually get that link beforehand. So it's a little annoying. But I have it now.
Oh, gee, yeah. Well, it's got to skeet, got to
This
skeet, skeet, skeet. That's what we got to
this
do.
whole change is just so weird because I was just checking it now on YouTube and it's like it's that's delayed. It's this is just strange. I'm not used to this.
Well, you know what? We adapt, Nicholas. Right? That's what we're good at. We adapt. We dropped an interview last week, so we didn't meet face to face last week. So we're still a little rusty, but that's okay, Nicholas. You're back home where you
Yes.
belong,
Yeah.
right?
Th-
No more honky tonks,
Thank goodness, man. I had so
no
much
more
fun in Nashville.
badonkadonks.
I had a good time in Nashville, but the only reason we didn't do what's new last week for those who follow us on social media, you know that we had some stuff going on. I was in Nashville, and then we had tornado scares. And basically, Joe, I haven't told you this part, but I actually told you about the tornado stuff. I had an hour north of us, two tornadoes touchdown, and then an hour
Oh
south, another
Jesus!
tornado touchdown. So basically, it was like all, and there were two others like in Kentucky and in Tennessee. So like it was basically all around us when you look at the map. So it was a lot of fun.
I always like joke and I really do feel like we're all certifiably insane for voluntarily living in New England. But then I realize outside of New England, anywhere you live in the continental United States, the world is trying to actively fucking kill you.
Yeah, dude. West Coast earthquakes.
California is going to fall into the ocean,
Yep.
right? You've got tornadoes everywhere else.
Which is the most ridiculous thing. Like hurricanes, we deal with occasionally, but that's more of like southeast kind of thing. But like they're brutal, obviously. But tornadoes to me are the most absurd thing. I think.
Yeah,
It's
I'll
like,
take a little bit of snow in late March as long as, I'm not getting fucking swept away, with the cows like in Twister.
dude, legit. I had one of my the last driver I think I had on Lyft or Uber. He said like he asked where we're from. We told him New England, and he said how we get like blizzards. Talking about the tornadoes stuff. He's like, "Ooh, blizzards. Geez, I'd rather have this." I'm like, "You dude, you have no idea. Like blizzards are tough, don't get me wrong, but you can like tornadoes? Like goodness gracious, no way,
you
man.
you you can shovel and snowblow with a couple of cold beers. Ain't no fucking beer on this planet gonna fucking help you out with a fucking tornado.
I watched the whole forecast, Joe, of like the in the hours that the tornadoes were touching down and stuff. And the meteorologist, she kept saying like, all right, like if you're living in this area right now, you have like 1 minute to like get to your safe spot. And I'm like, what do you mean you have like 1 minute? Like I know it's all in a blink and things can be fine, but it's like 1 minute and then my house could get like just ripped away. No thanks, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
I'm
take the
yeah.
snow.
I think I'll stay. Although we have had very rare occasions some tornadoes. I remember last spring.
Yep, up here.
I think yeah, right through the Marlboro area. I think right up by you and well, I don't want to give
No, it's
your
I
address
live
away.
I live in the town that the witches is set in. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners, and meteorologists of all ages, TLDR Studio proudly presents to you the greatest, and I mean the greatest, podcasting team in the world. He is the everyday comic book writer, Nick Friar. I am Tenacious Doc, baby. And together, we are the TLDR Comic Book Club. Well, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're in one piece.
Thank you.
Did you have any Nashville hot chicken?
Oh, I did. I did. Now, have you been to Nashville before or no?
No,
Okay.
I have not.
So I was told there, and I was texting with our mutual friend Corey, my high school buddy Corey, about it because he's been there a couple times, and he loves it down there. I think he's going back. Him and his wife are going back soon. But he mentioned Prince's. I had a driver that mentioned Prince's, and that's Prince ES, like multiple Prince. And then there's also Hattie B's. The missus liked Hattie B's more. I think I liked Prince's more, but both of them are really good. I highly recommend if you go there to try them both out if you have the time.
Love that. Yeah, I'm not a big country western guy. Not a big
Hmm.
honky tonk guy,
Hmm.
but I think I'd have some fun in Nashville.
You would, and honestly, the live music scene, while there's plenty of country mixing, there's a lot of rock that gets mixed in as well.
Yeah.
There are a lot of really cool artists, a lot of different sound. Like there's one guy who was like really like felt like '90s country sound, and then there were some girls that were like they had some awesome rock sound to them in their singing. So just it's a great mix. There's someone from The Voice that was there that was like doing like live shows and stuff like that. It was crazy. Just so many different types of people.
Well, it's good to see it. The Voice can get you out of the honky tonk bars of Nashville, Tennessee, with their megastar power prowess. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I was stunned. I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of them were just like random people who were like one offs. It seemed like, and then she was like, "Oh, like no, she was on The Voice and like had stuff recorded on the show and everything." I don't know. It just was interesting. But
Daughtry's down there banging out hits. You know.
yeah, that would be. Daughtry's touring in Europe with one of my favorite bands right now, who I'm going to see in the fall, and he's not doing the U.S. tour. And I am. You just hit really close to home. There, I was like, I would love
Oh,
to see him.
sorry.
Yeah.
You had to settle for Ruben Studdard instead. You know.
Uh, I didn't know till like I met my wife that Daughtry was even on American Idol. I never did. You watch American
Oh
Idol?
yeah.
I never did.
I watched a girl that I was dating at the time was into it, and
Mm,
I think when we started watching it, it was like the first few seasons. So this would have been 2003,
okay.
2004. I think Daughtry was somewhere in that era. Um, After what's her name there? Kelly
Kelly
Clarkson.
Clarkson.
Kelly
Yep.
Clarkson.
I
Anyways, Nicholas.
the only one I ever did was The Voice, and I actually really did enjoy that because I was a Blake Shelton guy back in college and everything like that.
I enjoy I my wife and I will occasionally watch The Voice. I like that. I think that it's a far superior program. Um, I like the format better. I like the judges. I think that's less about like American Idol. It's just like, oh, let's get a bunch of embarrassing, moments of
Yeah.
people, and then we'll get to the good. The Voice is just like they're all really effing good singers.
Yeah, very talented bunch.
It,
By the way, Joe Mulvey's really thrown off by our conversation right now. Did I turn into the new show, Country and Comics? No, sir, you did not. And you know what? Let's get back on track. I know you were already trying to get us there, Joe. So yeah, we did not do What's New last week, and that's usually what we stream on top of main lines. We don't stream our Friar side chats. Those are only found on our audio channels. So those are conversations with creators across the comic book industry. Make sure you subscribe to one of those audio channels, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, all those places. Subscribe to one of our audio channels. Leave a 5-star rating and review while you're there. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of Tenacious Doc. But whenever you want to find those conversations, those are always going to be there. And you're always going to have something from us on a week-to-week basis from there. Usually, you're going to have the mainstream as well. But again, the weather kind of got in the way of me returning back to my computer at home in New Hampshire. But we got a lot to get to. We have a long overdue trade, Joe. We do these about once every other century. So I'm very excited to hear the book that I have recommended previously that you're going to talk about. I cannot wait to see if you can guess the book that I am talking about today. You have gotten it right. I want to say twice, three times before, three times before.
No, twice. I've got three books that I've uh pegged,
Okay,
lack
I
of a better word, for
I,
you.
I gotta think. I gotta think on. I gotta think on what you would have. What you've done for me because I've never gotten never guessed it right before. So probably gonna stay consistent today with that. Nothing for us from catching up, but a lot of new books to get to. Why don't you take us through the new releases from Marvel this week?
So before we didn't do a what's new last week, but there was
Oh,
a lot
terrible,
of great books
terrible
last
week to
week.
not do it. Honestly, I was so
I
upset.
know, I know.
Oh,
It was an absolute fucking banger.
for the
But we got
DC
we got
stuff. Ugh.
we're very very front end heavy, I think, this week from
Yes.
Marvel, DC, and Image. But from Marvel Comics, we have for new comic book day, March 25th, which is my wife's birthday. And speaking of, going away for my wife's birthday weekend, I will be in Portland for Shime's bachelor
Oh, oh, that's
party.
good.
I have taken my wife out for a beautiful brunch already. Bought her some new running shoes, buying her sushi. It's all good.
Good
But
move.
anyways, new comic book day, March 25th, 2026. We have the Amazing Spider-Man issue 25. Side note, I'm all over the place this week, but I'm excited to be here, Nicholas. The new Spider-Man trailer
Oh,
It's got me harder than a diamond in an ice storm.
Ooh, okay,
So much that I
nice.
went back and I watched the last two Spider-Man movies, and I remember I think being a little jaded initially with them. Upon rewatch, loved them. Absolutely fantastic.
Okay, yeah. The second to the most recent one is my favorite one of the bunch.
Yeah, yeah, I liked it much better on rewatch than I did initially.
To that end,
Um,
are you going to be watching Daredevil week to week, or are you going to wait till it's all done and binge it?
well, I just binged season one.
Oh, you only just did it?
I only just did it,
Wow.
and I loved it, Nicholas. But one thing pissed me off, and I want you to take a guess as to what you think it was that pissed me off.
Was it the bank episode? I would assume that was.
No, loved it. No. I loved the season as a whole. It's not necessarily episode specific.
Mm.
There's something about this season that I really disliked.
Going about that last season, huh? I honestly oh, it was how they changed Cole. You don't like how they did that?
100%.
Yep, I should have known that off the rip.
100%.
Yep, 100%. It's a fair criticism, honestly. I did not understand why they did that.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like, awesome, like Zdarsky gets like his character like in the show, but like this was the issue I had with Sweet Tooth, right? You changed like a, it's not what the book was, and you give me that slop. You have this great character, um, and now you completely changed, who the character is and was, and you
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyways, I loved it. I loved it. What does Joe say here? One of the best actual movie trails of the last 10 years, easily. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Like harder than a diamond in an ice storm. And I've been like the movie poster. If you take a look at the signs, there's a Moltres Pokemon card. Moltres is a phoenix,
Mm-hmm.
right? You've got a little black goo. You've got the Miles Morales potential shoe prints. Like there's so much there. Like this is what Marvel's been missing, the MCU's been missing, since Endgame, is this trailer, this buzz. Like, how down I've been.
Yeah.
I am so amped, but I watched. I've watched all because I haven't been sleeping, so I watched all of season one of Born Again. Um, I probably will watch it week to week, but part of me was just say fuck it, I'll wait and binge it all again. But I'm so in right now that I've got to go and watch that first episode. I thought Born Again season one was fantastic.
I'm very curious if you end up like you need to tell me if you end up watching week to week because I will be doing that, but I know you're very against that in general
Yeah, yeah,
these
yeah.
days, so I'm curious. But anyways, Amazing Spider-Man issue 25 is out this week. What else we got from Marvel?
We have Ultimate Endgame issue 3, Uncanny X-Men 25, Fantastic Four issue 9, Iron Man issue 3, Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon, speaking of Chip Zdarsky, issue 2, Rogue issue 3, New Avengers issue 10, Dungeons of Doom issue 3, Marvel Knights Punisher issue 4, Null issue 3. Oh god, I love this series
So
so
good.
much.
Yeah, so good. I almost talked about that
It's
one today. It was another Marvel book that ended
right.
out.
Marvel. We could have all done Marvel this week. We have Psylocke Ninja issue 3, Inglorious X Force issue 3, Wiccan Witches Road issue 4, Generation X 23 issue 2, Godzilla Infinity Roar issue 2, Psy Dimensional Rivals issue 3, Predator Bloodshed issue 2, Denley Hands of Kunlun issue 2, and the Fantastic Four First Foes issue 1. But there is a book, Nikolai, that you would like to discuss.
Yes, a book that we have talked about a deal, and there are only 2 issues in so far. That's because we had the writer Benjamin Percy on the show a little while back. That is Punisher issue 2, of course, illustrated by Jose Luis Suarez. And we loved the first issue. We obviously loved Benjamin Percy's Red Band run on the Punisher as well. And coming out of that series, Frank is in a bad way, and I love how that is materializing because obviously the Punisher is just a regular human. Of course, he's got this military background and very skilled and all this stuff. But he's not like most of the other heroes and villains in the Marvel universe. Still, he is an absolute force of nature, and we've always seen that. But right now, like putting him in a spot where he's not able to think like, well, we've seen him not think clearly in Marvel Knights the Punisher, so like that's an issue that arises over there. But in this case now it's like his body isn't functioning in a manner that it's used to being able to do so. And I think, like, for me that's hitting just right. And I honestly, like, it may be because of where I'm at in my life, and I think there are plenty of other Punisher readers who are probably at a similar position where it's like this is going to hit just right for them. So it's been an excellent choice by Benjamin Percy, and I think the execution has been outstanding so far.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And like again, watching Born Again and
Yeah,
Barenthal is just so good at that character, man.
yeah.
Like yeah,
I
like
don't
Percy's
know.
nailing it. He really is.
I don't know if Dork's done an overall, like, the hashtag Dork podcast for those who have not listened to us over on that show. But I'm curious, Joe. Do you think, have they done a best cast, like a castings rankings, like regardless of property, regardless of like era and all that kind of stuff? Because when I think of
I
the
don't
best
know.
castings, John Bernthal is one of the characters, like one of the actors as Punisher that I do think of quite a bit. I don't know where he'd land, but I feel pretty comfortable saying he'd be top 10 for me.
Oh, yeah, hands down. I mean, he's so good. I mean, it's Anthony Starr, right? That's Homelander.
Anthony
Is
Starr's
that
home.
the list?
That's another great call.
Right?
Yeah, I wasn't even
Right?
thinking about that. Yep, 100%.
Charlie Cox is great as Daredevil, right? So I mean,
But
like
it gets tough, man. It's like you start saying it. It's like, oh yeah, it's easy. It's easy to name good ones. I think it's tougher to iron it, to parse it down, because then you have Hugh Jackman, you have Tony Stark, you have Robert Downey Jr. Do you put Chris Evans in there? Do you put Chadwick Boseman in there? Do you put and then you have Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson? That's five guys right there. You already mentioned, I think, five, and it's like we haven't talked any
I mean,
Spider-Man.
right, right. I mean, I think for the most part, the MCU does nail their casting.
Hmm.
For the most part, I did in more hits than misses for sure. You know, but yeah, I mean, he embodies that character of Punisher so well.
Yeah, he
Like,
does.
yeah, it's fantastic. But
Yep,
yeah,
one of my
Punisher too,
favorites.
tremendous stuff.
Yeah, and also a really nice week over at Marvel. But DC is the one. Well, they did something with Marvel this week, so you can kind of credit them as well. From DC, we got a lot of good stuff out this week. We have Absolute Martian Manhunter issue 10. That's going to be ending with issue 12 because of another opportunity that Denise Camp and Javier Fernandez have over at DC. I will probably talk about Absolute Martian Manhunter on the show, but I'm excited to see what that other project is that they're doing
But
because
that's it. 12 issues. That's it.
yep, they're ending it at 12 issues, which in a way I don't hate, because there's a part of me that wonders how long can you do a great job with Martian Manhunter, but there's
Mm.
just so much in there. Anyways, Detective Comics 1107, Superman issue 36, Justice League Unlimited issue 17, The Flash issue 31, Green Lantern issue 33, Harley Quinn issue 60, just powering, chugging along as well. The Peril of the Brutal Dark and Ezra Kane mystery issue 2. So now everybody is caught up with us because Joe and I actually got a chance to check this one out a little while back. This is another Vertigo title. When we talked to Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips on the show, we had actually I might have not read this before that conversation. No, I did. I just was like trying to be careful with with how
Yeah, yeah,
much I
yeah.
read. But that obviously we really enjoyed that. But there are two other books that you and I wanted to break down in detail. One is a DC Marvel title, which we don't get every day.
Yeah, and this is one where I kind of had issues when they did this the first time, and it was I just did not care for the Batman and Deadpool because, as I've famously said, like reading Deadpool gives me a headache.
Yes.
And pairing it with Batman, it just like I don't know, it wasn't my cup of tea. But Spider-Man and Superman, now we're talking. Now we're talking. These are like my two like all-time, favorite characters. So we have DC Marvel, Superman, Spider-Man, issue 1, written by Mark Waid with art by Jorge Jimenez. This is the main story, and this is what I really loved. And so I thought these two characters worked really well because there's sort of this aw shucks to sort of both of them.
Yep.
But it wasn't sort of like, it wasn't your classic, Boy Scout Superman. It was a really great story, involving Superman and Spider-Man. You sort of both both going to something as their job as in their roles as reporters and photographers. which was really cool. And then it sort of led to all this discovery of two supervillains, one from Spider-Man's Rogue Gallery and one from Superman's Rogue Gallery, uh, working together in a very unique way. And what I loved, I think the best thing about these little crossovers is that there's about two stories in each book, so you just get this bam, this nice quick hitter of a one shot. And it was bright. Jorge Jimenez's art, I love his art style. It's always so clean and so vibrant. And I just thought Spider-Man and Superman worked really well together. Like this could be a series that I would read, and I
Mm.
could see this like these two, like doing a six issue arc together, and it would be a very very enjoyable read. Whereas like the Batman and Deadpool one, like I'm glad that was a one shot. That's all I needed. And I didn't want any more. This I want a little bit more. I could, you could take this in a couple of different directions, but this was a really fun read that I very much enjoyed.
Yeah, and I feel like we're getting more. I just like not from necessarily these two. I mean, we should. I would assume we're getting a Marvel DC version of this. I will admit I've fallen off on just tracking this because we had the Batman Deadpool hype and they did the two titles. And I was like, wait, what? So it kind of threw me off a little bit. But I would assume we're gonna get the Marvel version of these two teaming up. So it sounds like you're gonna get your wish in some capacity. But I'm very curious. Like, are we gonna get another headlining pair? At some point,
Mm.
I would assume this is not where it's going to end. As much as we're getting a lot of stories, a lot of backup stories in these issues, including a one that was with Power Girl and the Punisher, which I did read, that was written by Gail Simone, and I definitely enjoyed that one. I haven't checked out the other ones, but I when I was reading this, I was like Joe, the Spider Man Superman one. I was like Joe's gonna love this because this is very
Yeah.
much like this is right up his alley, and it's like feel good and everything like that. As much as the villains are not being great dudes.
Give us Punisher and Red Hood next. Come on, I dare you.
Yeah,
Do it.
that'd be
Do
great.
it.
That'd be wild. I can't imagine that happening.
Make it a
Um,
Vertigo book and just go all out.
yeah, there you go. From the other book from DC that I wanted to discuss, which we have both been just absolutely loving, and it just continues to like we've said it before, we want to talk about the books that we love, but we also don't want to repeat, titles every single month and get repeatable. But Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Batman continue to like force our hand. Absolute Wonder Woman is up this week with Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman, of course, telling this story. And there's a lot to get to from like a layer standpoint, but right off the rip, Joe, there's this micro development that happens in I think it was the first page of this issue. I think it's in the preview pages. And I was just like, oh, how's that going to unfold later? Because that's going to turn into something, especially because of what's going on in one of the other Absolute titles. It has me wondering, like, okay, this interesting. What's going to happen there? But on top of all that, we've obviously been getting a lot of stories with Diana and the Greek gods and like the relationships that she's dealt with them and other people within Greek mythology over the years. And I've enjoyed that. It's done a really good job of like explaining the character and kind of providing more background. But I feel like as this series is going on, I'm appreciating it more and more. Where like originally it was like, okay, this is nice, and it's like it is building the character. Now it's like it like she's such a deep character that now if we didn't have those, it almost feel missed. And before I didn't necessarily feel that way. Not and it wasn't negative. It's just like I didn't realize how much it was hitting me. And I think this week was where it really had that massive impact. And then, of course, like Zatanna is at the center of everything right now in this Wonder Woman story. And I am very curious too about what is her role gonna look like going forward. That's another thing that I'm pretty suspicious about too. Great addition to the whole Absolute Wonder Woman story. This issue's no exception, but I can't help but like look to the future with that character too.
Yeah, and Hayden Sherman's art was absolutely outstanding, especially in the last several pages revolving around a certain character and just the line work and the coloring and everything. It was so good.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of issues this week that just end with just absolute bangers of panels and pages, and this is one of them. And Sherman's art. They crushed it. They absolutely crushed it.
Yeah.
You know, they have all series long, but especially this issue. I just for me, I don't want to spoil. But just the way this character was drawn and portrayed was awesome. It was just an absolute tour de force.
Yeah, the creativity too, like was
Mm.
to that end too was like part of like it's been there this whole series, but I feel like this issue is like a really great example of like the creativity that's been able to flourish, like been allowed to
Mm.
flourish and fostered in the Absolute Universe. We've been getting a lot of that been getting that across the all the titles, but especially in Absolute Batman and especially in Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yeah. All right. I'm trying to, move my headphones so visually for those watching. It's because it's driving me fucking batshit.
They can
Oh,
see your face. That's all that matters. The Joe
yeah.
Movie
It's
wants to get
that's
lost in your eyes. That's all that matters.
always, always. You should see the things he texts me. Holy
Oh
smokes.
boy. I don't want to get involved. That's all you guys. Happy for you.
Anyways, from Image and Skybound, we have Void Rivals issue 28, The Department of Truth issue 36, Skinbreaker issue 7, World Tree issue 19, Red Coat issue 17, Gunslinger Spawn issue 52, Hyde Street issue 11. Excellent, excellent, excellent
Yeah,
issue.
yeah, best one in a while.
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. I Scream Man, issue 45. Spawn, The Dark Ages, issue 4. Capes, issue 5. I Hate Fairyland, issue 49, the Tim Wakefield issue. Speaking of I Heart Fairyland, I bought Brett Bean's art book for Violet. It is an awesome book. Just in
Nice.
general, it is an awesome, awesome art book. We have Universal Monsters, Phantom of the Opera, issue 2. The first issue that was absolutely outstanding. Final Boss, issue 5. Malevolent, issue 3. Death Fight Forever, which sounds like an emo punk band, issue 2. G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, Hama Files, edition, issue 24. Blood Squad 7 yearbook, issue 1. And then we have 2 books we'd like to discuss. I will go first, Nicholas. And you asked me, how are you going to talk about this book without spoiling anything? I had to talk about this book because it might be my favorite of the week. And maybe that's because I didn't have to read so much. That's Feral issue 21. And so I knew this issue was coming in the sense that, like, they were sort of, Tony and Trish, were sort of hyping this. Like, this is an issue where there's very little dialogue, right? It is mostly a silent comic, and it is so well done. Like, Trish and Tone they do so well at drawing these animals and being able to evoke a lot of emotions, right, through the cat's eyes, through the anger, of the dog. We get a lot of storytelling done without the words, right, which is a true testament, I think, to Trish and Tone's art. And and the way that it ends, the way that this book ends, I wouldn't be surprised if this issue goes to 4, 5, 6 printings. It's going to fly off the shelves for a very specific reason that I didn't see coming. Maybe it was out there, but I think they kept it really close to the vest because I had no idea, and I was blown away with this ending, Nicholas. And I read this, and as soon as I read it, I go, "That's the book of the week."
100%.
I haven't. I think it was like maybe the second book I read this week, and already it was like, that's it. Like, there is no beating. Feral has been an absolutely stellar series, from day one, and what they pulled off with this issue, both from like a creative, execution, and then just sort of where they're taking it, blew me away.
100%.
Like, Trish, Tony, bra, fucking vo, tremendous.
I will say, tread cautiously on the internet while until you read this.
Yeah, I would avoid the internet.
Yeah. In general, it's probably a good idea, but definitely when it comes to this, I would tread cautiously because we do a lot to dance around stuff in books because there's a lot more to talk about. There's plenty enough to talk about without spoiling things. But we are not not everybody subscribes to that, and I understand that in some ways. But at the same time, tread cautiously. I was dying for this issue because I've thought this whole time like Ghost is a really fascinating character. At first, he kind of creeped me out, and then it's like, oh, this motherfucker's got a little bit of an edge to him. So I need to just have focus on him because he just hasn't been getting as much screen time. And I get it, there's other characters and whatnot, but we get that here, and I'm hoping we're gonna get more from this character going forward. I was not disappointed to say the least, but yeah, this really was a fun issue, and I can't wait to get more from Ghost. But that is not
Yeah.
the only image book that we want to talk about this week. Also, another book that's been selling like absolute gangbusters, the first issue, White Sky, issue 2, written by William Harms with art by J.P. Mavinia. And you talked about this with Farrell. The art does so much of the talking in White Sky, and that is so powerful. There was so much going on in terms of like we talk a lot about like world building, we talk a lot about character development, and sometimes when things are done really well, both are being done at once and it feels very natural and very fluid, but it's not always easy to do both at the same time necessarily. It's even harder, at least I would think, harder to do both when you don't have as much dialogue. Yet we're learning so much about this character, Violet, while the world is being expanded in the process. And the dialogue, as much as there's still plenty, it's much more limited than the average book. And I was very, very much impressed by that. We got that in the first issue, and that happens again in this issue. And then where we left things off in the first issue, Violet and her dad were under attack. Things pick up from that in this, and we learn a little bit more about the attacking group. There's another player that's involved in all this that's going to have that's probably going to bring a lot to the table too. So White Sky has a lot of momentum behind it after that first issue, and maintains it in this second one.
Yeah, there's been a lot of books, and I'm not saying that White Sky is a random book, but there's been a lot of books like recently where I feel like the spec market has just been out of control, right?
I agree.
And like like I was talking with the guys over at Newbury Comics, and they were White Sky was one, and there was a couple other books, and I go,
Dork, of course.
really? Well, Dork and White Sky, 100%. They're effing excellent, right? But there was a couple books, and I was like, I didn't quite get it. Like I read the book, and the book seemed like fine to me, but for something about like a
Huh.
certain cover, people are going nuts and snapping them
Interesting.
up, you know.
Interesting.
But the spec market, I feel like it had cooled for a while, and now it's like back up
Yeah,
again.
and it was definitely. I mean, it's crazy to see it translate outside of Marvel and DC because like that's we want everybody to have success, but at the same time we love the stuff outside of Marvel and DC, and we want like that always just gets less and less traction or less and less attention from the average readers in the spec market. But like I feel like Absolute Batman was what really started the spec market in like
Mm.
being active and getting after it again. And then Dork was like the next big thing that moved it in that direction. So
Yeah, yeah.
very, very much like enjoying all that. Love seeing that. As much as I know some people can get annoyed like within the comic space where it's like, but they're taking away our first issue, our issues and stuff like that. And we want to actually read it. Rising tide lifts all ships. This is not a bad thing. Like I stand by that. And also, we always tell you guys, final order cutoff. Let your local comic shop know if you want
Mm-hmm.
things added to your pull list. We try and get ahead of that for you guys with any books that we do interviews on, like Dork. So make sure you stay on top of those things. Anyways, Joe, I'm gonna rip us through these next couple here. So we got minor from Boom. We got Minor Arcana issue 15, the Center Holds issue 2. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers TMNT Volume 3, Issue 5. Obviously, we love this series from Ryan Parrott. Dark Horse, we got Tomb Raider, Sacred Artifacts, Issue 3. Carmen Redclaw, Belly of the Beast, Issue 3. Miss Truesdale and the Rise of Man, Issue 4. Star Wars The High Republic Adventures, Pathfinders, Issue 1. Mega Ghost, Issue 1. And what do we got from Mad Cave?
From a Medcave, we have the Florida Hippopotamus Cocaine Massacre, issue 2. Generally, I'd be annoyed with long titles, but that title kicks ass. We have Is Ted Okay, issue 2, written and drawn by Dave Chisholm. This book is wild, and it is awesome. We have Ferocious, issue 5, which was that the finale, Nicholas?
That
No.
was the finale, yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Excellent series. Excellent series. Liquidator issue 5, The New Space Age issue 4, and then a book, Nicholas, that I did an early look on, that the fine people over at the award-winning Mad Cave Studios, you sent me, and that was Honor and Curse Eternal, issue 1, written by Mark London with art by Jaime, Infante. And, uh go back if you don't follow us on Instagram and TikTok, do so, because not to toot my own horn, Nicholas. I made what I felt was one of my better videos about this book, and it's sort of the new foray into the underworld universe. And, something that Mad Cave Studios is doing that I think is great. We just talked about the importance of FOC, right? You can go and you can subscribe to this book and other titles over at Mad Cave, right? Digitally, like you get them digitally and they get sent to your inbox. But then when the series wraps up, right, they give you a physical trade paperback,
Yeah.
and which I think's great, right? And because you still get that physical copy, and you're guaranteed all the books. But I love the Underworld universe. I loved Exit City. I loved Revolution 9. I loved Hour of the Wolf. I love the big sort of crossover series they did, Endless Nights, with all three of those books. So this is the new edition, and this is about a ninja that's sort of like a Highlander, if you will, right? He's
Mm.
immortal, and but he's cursed with this sort of internal demon's not quite the right word, but he's learned over the millennia to sort of keep it at bay, because once it's unleashed, it will cause unholy hell.
Hmm.
And the book starts off sort of in feudal Japan, and then brings it to present day, where our main character, Genshi, has sort of amassed this massive empire, but he's trying to do good. He's keeping this sort of inner demon at bay, but there is a player at hand that is forcing his hand, if you will, and causing him to do the one thing he has sworn not to do, and it's unleash this demon. And what I loved about the issue was Jaime Infante's artwork is absolutely excellent. London's got such a great command of this universe that he's created. And you get just little subtle references to the events that happened at the end of the Endless Night, crossover event. And so you don't need to read those to be able to enjoy this, right? There's some subtle references, and I'm sure as this series goes on, it'll probably tie in a little bit more. Maybe we'll see some characters. But you can jump on here and really enjoy it. So I loved Honor and Curse, Eternal, and I think if you've been reading all the Underworld stuff, you're gonna love it as well. But if not, give it a shot. This is great stuff.
Yeah, and I think that the universe is going to be continuing beyond like those original titles. There's going to be some level of continuation. I remember seeing some announcement about some other
Yeah.
writers jumping in to take over from Mark
Yes.
London. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
remember exactly
Was
who it
was
was.
was Rich Duick?
I think yeah,
I
that's
think Rich Duick
yep,
is one of them, and I think it's is it Exit City? I can't remember, but he's taken over one of them, I believe, which
yeah.
is awesome, awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
you're absolutely right. I'm going to take us through these next few so you can get ready to do your breakdown of a full trade. It's been a while since we've done one of those. All right, from IDW, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder issue 6, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures issue 35, Star Trek The Last Starship issue 6, Return to Sleepy Hollow issue 5. From Titan, we got Conan the Barbarian issue 30. From Ignition, we got Just Brutal issue 2. From Dynamite, we have Thundercats issue 25, Supernatural issue 6, Vampirella issue 12, DuckTales issue 12, Disney Villains Ursula issue 2, and then from Oni Press, we have Spirit of the Shadows issue 3, which brings us to the book that you want to discuss this week, Joe.
Yeah, it's this is a book I've been wanting to discuss, and this is a book, Nick, that I think is absolutely right up your alley. And I had two books in mind that I was going to do, and I couldn't remember if this was a book I had claimed dibs on, because I believe I said at the time, I'm not going to call dibs so you can read this. And he said, I never got around to reading it. I said, okay, I'm doing it.
Bingo.
Right.
Yep.
So that's Plague House from Oni Press, written by Michael Conrad. And I'm like, where did I remember that name? Where do I remember that name? Nicholas, he wrote In Bloom, right?
Oh.
With John Peterson on art there, right?
Yep.
That book, that series was wild. So Michael Conrad, art and letters and colors by Dave Chisholm, right? We just talked about. I mentioned him
Yeah.
with Is Ted Okay, right? So um, he's becoming a real favorite artist of mine, because I think he does this sort of horror genre, uh thriller genre really well with his art style. I'll get into that a bit more in a moment. So synopsis. 13 years ago, Orrin McCabe was a family man living a privileged life in the suburbs. Today, he's condemned to death row for murdering his entire family in an unexpected fit of hammer wielding brutality. In the aftermath of his famous crime, it's fallen to a trio of eclectic but dedicated ghost hunters to surveil the abandoned McCabe home in search of proof for the existence of the undead. I cut that synopsis down a little bit, just to kind of tighten it up a smidge. But like, I feel like that is a beautiful encapsulation of sort of the premise of this book, the series. So it's 4 issues, and like I said, Nicholas, it is right up your alley, because there's some religious aspects of this. There's the supernatural. It's a horror book, and between Conrad's writing and Chisholm's art, like, this book will haunt the shit out of you.
Nice.
And so it starts off at 1,000 miles an hour and just doesn't hold back. And that's because the book starts right off with the McCabe, murders, where you just have this really horrifying art, and it's a lot of silhouettes. It's a lot of, like, you're just seeing this sort of middle-aged fat guy, balding, walking down the hallway with a hammer. And some of the kills you don't see, but you hear, right, through the lettering, right? There's what was most jarring to me was, after he takes out his wife, you then see a child's room, right, and one of his children, like, sleeping in bed, and you just kind of see him holding the hammer. So, like, right off the bat, this book's not fucking around.
Hmm.
And and then, so that's how the book starts. And then because you're getting, and then but you're at the same time, you're getting narration from our main character, Dell, who's sort of the leader of this sort of ghost hunting troop, if you will. So, like, it's squeamish. It really made me cringe a little bit, because, like, oh shit, but you're sucked in, right? And then it follows up with, now you've got these your three sort of main characters sort of going through this house, ghost hunter style, right? And so, their primary purpose, right, is to go to these houses, and not just prove the existence of ghosts and spirits, or hauntings, but to also try and cleanse, right, the house, right, and try and free it of the spirits. And as this story develops, and as you learn what's really sort of going on, um, man, it just gets more and more and more twisted, right? There's a descent into madness that you get with all of these characters. And like, as a horror story, like, again, like, 2025 was just had so many of these books. It was very hard to choose the best from the best. And this was right up there, with them. And I just, I can't stress this enough, Nicholas, and I can't stress this enough for any horror fan. Like, this is a book for you, because it's got everything that I think you look for in a horror book. One of the characters, has that sort of exorcist, religious, kind of character, and brings that. So all three of these characters are very different from each other. and it's a story that gets told and what unfolds and the twists that you go on, just absolutely, blow your mind. And what's really fascinating, right, is that the first issue is sort of really revolving around this McCabe murders, and these you're getting introduced to the characters, and they're kind of going through the house and weird shit's happening. But then you start to find out that people related to these cases, that were either directly involved or indirectly involved, weird shit starts to happen to them. And one of the characters is starting to put pieces of a puzzle together, and it's telling a much more sinister story. So there's many layers to it, and it's just the pacing of it is excellent. So you just pulled into this really tight, awesome, horror story. Um, and it's just the way that from where it starts and how it ends, the ride is wild. It's just an absolute wild ride, a horrifying one that I think people will love. Our characters. You've got three main characters really. You've got Dell, who is sort of the leader of the group. He is the famous one. He is the, sort of the internet, TV, guy,
Hmm.
um, and he, he's got a bit of a following to him, but he recruits these other two members because he wants to sort of legitimize what he's doing. His idea is if I can take skeptics and get them to believe, then I've got it.
Hmm.
And so he's trying to solidify and legitimize, his ghost hunting, sort of prowess. And he's he's a bit of a dick. He's a bit patronizing. The other characters don't necessarily like him so much, and that's another really unique, dynamic of the book. And he dabbles in the occult a little bit, right? So there's more to him than meets the eye, right? And then you've got Holland, who's the skeptic, you know, and like I said, he was, or they were sort of recruited by Dell to really give credence to what they're doing. Like I said, if you can get the skeptic to believe and buy in, then you've got everyone else right, on the hook. And Holland is also, the tech, so they do all the editing and recording and stuff like that. So they do a lot of the behind the scenes dirty work that Dell doesn't give him credit for. And,
Of course.
again, right, something very, very, like all of these characters have, just have these, you know, they've got their story together as a group, and then how each of their stories unfold is just like, holy shit, right? And then you have Jacob, who's the holy man, and he's a bit nebbish, but he definitely believes in demons and ghosts. He's got a really, unique origin story that you get, told really well within, a page or two, I believe, in the second issue. And again, there's more to all these characters than sort of meets the eye, and Jacob starts to see a little bit of a pattern here, and he's like, "What the hell's is going on?" And then how his story unfolds. Again, absolutely wild. You don't see it coming, right? So it's just like full high octane, pedal to the metal, just like whew, kind of a horror story there. So Conrad. I mean, I was taking a look at Michael Conrad's sort of catalog, and a lot of stuff for DC, right? A lot of Nightwing stories, a lot of just a lot of like little stories here and there for DC. But the two biggest indie books has been In Bloom and now Plague House. So like, what a hell of a start, right? Like, I want more. Give me more, Michael Conrad. If you're watching and listening, please, 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 please. I thought the pacing was great. I thought the layering of all the characters, the way the story unfolded was just written so well. And then you've got Chisholm's art style, right? And it's
Yeah.
very jarring. He's got a very unique art style. It's the lines. It's not sketchy, but they're not clean, right? It's haunting,
Hmm.
right? Like it, when I read this book, and when I'm reading Is Ted Okay, there feels like there's an illness, right, to
Ooh.
to 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 the art style, right? Like you're just like, it almost kind of feels like, there's like periods of Picasso and in his artwork where it's just like, or same thing with Van Gogh, right? Where there's just like probably more Van Gogh, to be honest with you, where it's just like, oh, there's something like unwell about that art style. And that's not to say Chisholm is unwell. You know what
Right,
I mean? Like
right, right, right,
that's just the style, right? That's
right.
what in me it evokes.
Hmm.
And so it is very jarring. But I say that in like in a very positive way, in a very good way. It really lends itself, to these types of stories. John Peterson, right?
John J.
His art
Pearson.
style, John J. Pearson. I said Peterson. Pearson. Thank you, Jesus. My bad. Um, Very different art style, but again, is perfect for horror books, right? Same thing with Alex Cormack, right? Like there's certain artists that just like they fit into a genre so well, and that just enhances the storytelling. So I thought those two worked really well together, and I like the fact that Chisholm did the art, did the lines, the colors, and the lettering, because it was
Hmm.
very oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like,
Cohesive.
um, thank you, very cohesive, right? And so, excellent, excellent stuff, Nicholas. You should read this as soon as you can.
This is going to move right up on my to read list for sure. Especially you've been talking about it from start to finish about how this is so much my thing, but you were on top of it, and I just didn't prioritize it. I'm curious. So this sounds very much like a movie, no questions asked. Like it has, like, I know it's a short story, but like like if they did more, it sounds like it could be a show. But this really sounds like it's fleshed out well as a movie. But it kind of leads into my question: Do without spoiling things, do you think this could be extended beyond this series?
No,
Okay.
this kind of like bang, like this is the story, and it's this will make an excellent movie, you know, like a good hour and a half, 2 hour, like just this would make an excellent movie.
Oh, I'm so in on that.
Um,
I'm so in on that.
and but yeah, no, this is a tight 4 issue story.
Perfect.
You don't want
Perfect.
more, you obviously don't want less. It's perfect.
Perfect. All right. Yeah, we are all about as much as everybody likes ongoings, and we're seeing like a big surge in ongoings. It feels like a big surge at least recently. We are big fans of a nice tight 6 issue series, especially over at one of the indie publishers. So that's awesome. I love the sound of all that, and I cannot wait to check this out. Maybe it'll be the book that I do for next trade, although that would probably be a little too telling
Don't
for
wait
you.
that long.
Well,
Don't wait that
well,
long,
wait a minute.
for
I
fuck's
don't.
sakes.
No, wait. I see. I don't. I don't wait to read a book right before. Sometimes I do, but I generally don't wait to read one of your recommendations right before a trade. I just won't tell you, and because I want to save it for that. But no, I try and mix in your stuff here and there
See,
throughout.
I have to, or I'll forget, because I read
Ah,
so much. I
mm-hmm.
have to do it to keep the old cabeza fresh.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Oh, oh, Senor fala português? Dice cabeza,
See,
son. Get that Spanish. All right, enough of that. Good. You got Cunha though, right? You can get his name right. That will.
cuina
Yeah.
and
Anyway,
chorizo.
there you go. All right. So Joe was doing an Oni book, but I am going to do a Marvel book this week because this is long overdue on my part. I've talked about doing this on the show here and there for a while, and I know I've talked about Moon Knight in detail before, but this book or this run is important for me, and honestly, it was a formative book for the show in some ways too, and that's Jed McKay's Moon Knight run. If you guys looking at the show description, you'll see Marc Spector Moon Knight, which is the most recent book in that. We've got the first 2 issues of that, and I have been really enjoying that, and I will like touch on that in a capacity here. But this is written by Jed McKay, and up until recently, this was drawn by Alessandro Capuccio, the primary artist on this series. This has continued to be colored by Rachel Rosenberg. Actually, maybe pronounced Rochelle Rosenberg. There's an E at the end there. Either way, she's been outstanding. We'll be talking about her for sure. And then letters by Corey Pettit. Now, this has 30 issues, 5 volumes, like on the original run. And that was originally just Moon Knight. That ran from July 2021 to December 2023. That led to three more continuations: Vengeance of the Moon Knight, which was 9 issues long, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu, which was 15 issues long, and now we have Marc Spector Moon Knight. And we've got the first two issues of that so far. And the reason why this is like formative for the show and so important to me is when I was reading this series. Like at first, I was was picking up issues at my local comic shop, especially because like we weren't getting review copies from Marvel at that time, and I just love Moon Knight in general. And at first, I was really enjoying it. I was like, this is fun. Like I hadn't read as much McKay stuff in the past. I wasn't familiar with Alessandro Capuccio, who we've talked about so much between this and Ultimate Wolverine, where he's working with Chris Condon, which is what pulled him away from Jed McKay and Moon Knight. But as I was reading this, my local comic shop, which I was living in Massachusetts at the time, I'm not going to out, the shop and everything, because I did love the shop. But the person who I believe was the owner, at least the primary person that worked there, when I was reading Moon Knight, he kind of like talked smack about McKay and was like, oh, yeah, he's not like, and I'm not going to get into the critiques, but he just was like critical of his work in a way that, look, everybody's entitled to their opinions, but you're trying to sell me books and I'm reading this book. So here's an idea. Don't tell me about why he sucks. Just shut up and like take my money. And you could argue, well, Nick, you should be able there to defend your guy or whatever. I hadn't read enough McKay to really have an opinion. So I was like, am I missing something? I got influenced by it. And like that, we're all susceptible to having that kind of stuff happen. And for me, that was where like the show was already, underway at that point, but that was such a like big thing for me where it's like, fuck man, like that pushed me off the series. And then when I went back and got started reading again, I was like, why did I stop reading this? I love what McKay's done. There are some spots that are better than others, don't get me wrong, but like this is a really, really good like run. He did 30 issues on the original and then 25 plus since, like 50 plus issues of like quality work on a character that I love so much, and a character who I think needed a little bit of help to like, as much as he was back in the limelight or in the limelight more than ever because of the Oscar Isaac series. But I just, that really bugged me when that guy did that. And it really, like, afterwards when I went and revisited it, I was like, dude, what is like I had no reason to stop reading this. So I stopped pulling it at that time, and I've been back on it ever since I hopped back in. I feel like it was in 2024 when I hopped back in. So this is where like there's reasons why we are very much like, there's no reason to talk, like, you don't need to talk negative about books. Like, obviously we mix it in here and there, but like there's so many good books out there. We don't want to yuck people's yums, and I just know from firsthand experience, like, why do we need to do that when someone likes a book and it's like, oh, I don't like it, but whatever, fine, great, good for you. Like, unless you actually ask us, because I was also, Joe, I didn't ask the guy. He just kind of like said it to me unsolicited. So it's like, dude, just take my money and shut up. Anyways, so that's why this book will always be, this like run will always be important to me, because that's something that that experience I will never forget, that because it was just very frustrating. As for the first volume of this series, the synopsis on this, his mission is justice. The mysterious Mr. Knight has opened his midnight mission, sheltering his people from the weird and horrible. While Khonshu languishes in prison, Marc Spector's sacred duty must still be observed: the protection of those who travel at night. But what happens when those he would save are turned into weapons against him? And you're hearing like Midnight Mission, and maybe, hey, like you read that Lemire run that I talked about a little while back. That's the one Moon Knight book I've talked about on here. Maybe you've checked that out. Midnight Mission. It sounds like something that could have always been around. I'm telling you right now, very much not. Very different angle taken with Moon Knight here by Jed McKay. But first, I actually want to talk about the art, because Alessandro Capuccio has a badass style. Like, you've heard us talk about it with Ultimate Wolverine, and there's just like, there's a sleekness and like like a tightness to his style. Like obviously his lines, like there's actually like some edginess to his lines as well. But just like the way he draws the Winter Soldier like mask for Wolverine is like we see that similarly with his Moon Knight work as well. I love his style, and actually I think I got something signed by him at New York Comic Con. But this is another series where I feel like in the past, I don't know, in the second half to this point of this show of the TLDR era, I feel like I've been talking about colors more and more in their importance because it's really starting to just hit me. There are certain people, there's been plenty of names that we know that are quality that do a good job, but there are some people who are like really starting to make fucking statements. And I cannot help but notice it and call it out because it's just like, dude, like the artist is this person. The colorist is they're like they're two separate people and they need to be recognized accordingly. Because Rochelle Rosenberg, man, like one of the things about Moon Knight and why he's generally been portrayed as being clothed in all white. Sometimes he's got like a little white and black mix up going on too. Sometimes it's a little bit more gray, but here it feels a little bit more silver. But either way, like he wants the people who he's fighting to know that he's coming. So he's like we all know he like Moon Knight's got a little bit of he's got a little bit of stuff going on upstairs. He's kind of like Punisher in some ways too, where he's like I'm ex-military, ex-merc, like I am tough as nails, and I want you to be scared shitless of me because that partially like kind of plays into his whole thing too, where it's just like, Moon Knight. If I'm in Moon Knight's area, I'm in trouble. Her colors make his like outfit, uniform, whatever, shine in a way that I just like. It's a thing that you do not see in comics. I feel like because I think she does the Ultimate Wolverine stuff as well. I feel like we see some of that a little bit in Ultimate Wolverine, but it's definitely not as prominent because that's a much more gritty book. But in this series, dude, at some point, Joe, like I'm not like if you go and read this, even just check out some pages. Like you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It is mind blowing how much that jumps off the page and how cool it is, and it plays so well because this is all set in New York City as well. It's just like there's a lot of other lights that are kind of shining throughout, but Moon Knight just pops and like he has the big cape and everything like that Capuccio draws so well. Honestly, Capuccio shouldn't have anybody else color his work. Like these two work so friggin' well together, and I'm telling you guys, it may sound crazy, but Rochelle Rosenberg's artwork is enough to enough to check out this series. Forget about what I'm going to say about McKay's writing. Forget about even Capuccio's line work. Like her shit pops, and it is so fucking cool. As for the characters that we get in this, we get a few new characters. Obviously, Moon Knight's at the center of all this. Got a lot going on here. Not in the best of terms with Khonshu, which I mean, quite honestly, when is he ever on perfect terms with dear old dad? But Hunter's Moon is a new character who enters the mix. I think in the second arc is when he pops in. But this is another Moon Knight type of character who wears a few different hats. You'll get to know him and spend some more time with him. Very cool character, very cool look. Tigra, who everybody knows as as an ex-Avenger. Her and Marc have been teammates at one point. She becomes a prominent character throughout this series. There's a character named Reese who we meet very early, who is this young woman who's turned into a vampire and becomes Moon Knight's right-hand woman. And from there, there's more characters who get added into the mix. Others show up in varying capacities. In the most recent iteration of McKay's run, Marc, Spector, Moon Knight, there are a couple of big time players that entered the mix that I am so pumped about. I will not talk about them here because you guys want to let you guys experience that, but I'm sure some of that's been spoiled online. And then from a writing perspective, so this series started after Moon Knight issue 200. That was like the last legacy issue that came out before. I forget in that specific run what it was numbered like individually, but it was legacy issue 200, which is obviously a thing that Marvel's been doing for a good bit now. And that was like that one I was off and on a little bit on. I've not talked about that one on the show, and I'm not gonna. But there were some interesting things that happened there, but it just wasn't my favorite Moon Knight work. When we get to this, like it's like okay, like we got a new Moon Knight story. What's gonna go on here? Obviously excited and all this stuff, but like working from a spot where like I need things to be proven a little bit. And one thing that McKay does right off the rip that is just it grounds the story, kind of gives like a get back to basics feel, but also feels different. Is you have Marc as Mr. Knight, in a therapist's office talking about his shit, and it's just so perfect. And that is a prominent piece of the first like 30 issues of McKay's run. It's just very much there, and again, like you see the shine even in the office too. I love that because it grounds the story, and it plays an interesting role throughout the entirety of that portion of the run. And I just love that about this series. Like McKay knows one of the things that's really good about one of Jed McKay's strengths, and I've heard this from other people too, is like he knows Marvel history really well. Whether that's from reading a ton or doing research or a bit of both, I'm sure it's a mix. But he knows how to mix stuff in from the past that like was important, maybe not as important, whatever, but it's like it's all true to the story. He knows how to mix that in and then turn it into something new in the present. And he does that a lot with Moon Knight. I think this series for McKay was actually a big difference maker for him in his career. He's done some other awesome stuff at Marvel, but he after Moon Knight, I felt like he got a lot more opportunities, and very much deservedly so. For me, one of the things I love about Moon Knight, the reason why there's such appeal to this character for me is two things. One, obviously, I've talked about the mental health aspect of it, which is here is definitely like a part of all of it, as I mentioned, but it's definitely like nobody did that better than Lemire did. That series was just unhinged, and I loved that. That's at play here, and there is one single issue in this run that's outstanding for that. I think it's the Vengeance of the Moon Knight arc, but or two issue arc. That was a lot of fun. But the other element is the faith based stuff, and that's also prominent in here as well. And it wasn't I think it was there in Lemire's stuff, but that was a little bit more of a trippy series. Again, more about the mental health struggles. I love seeing the faith based stuff thrown in the mix here, and we're dealing with like Egyptian gods, so it's a totally different element, and I had a lot of fun with that. There's new characters, similar but different stuff that's happened with Moon Knight in the past. A really fresh, grounded take all around. I think McKay has a great feel for this character, both from a personality and a historical standpoint. And he just, I feel like he has utilized so much, yet there's even more that he's going to be able to utilize. I don't know how much longer he's going to be working on this character, but I mean, this again, we're on the third like renaming of his Moon Knight run. Again, like that's over 55 issues in, so he's seems like he's going to be able to do it for a little while longer if he wants to.
Yeah, I got to read more Moon Knight. I really do,
Hmm.
because I feel like this is a character that I think would really speak to me.
Yes.
I've read Lemire's, which was fantastic, but I gotta check out McKay's run because he's such a cool character and a
Mhm.
character that I'm familiar with, but not like, you know what I mean.
Yep.
So you
100%.
explore this character more, and I think McKay's the right way to do that.
I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I genuinely think that this is the way McKay does it. As much as he respects the past so much and integrates it, it's still very, very accessible for someone like you who has limited interaction with Moon Knight, where it's just that you've only read Lemire. I still think you'll read this and you won't be lost. You won't be confused in any capacity. So and I do think like this is a character who can speak to you for sure. 100%. All right.
Yeah.
Those are our two recommendations. Now it is time for us to talk about books that the other person has recommended in the past. So for those who are new to the program, whenever we get to a trade, that is a round numbered issue. That is issue 90, issue 100, issue 120, although 50 and 100 get different labels as well. But anytime you get to a 10 on mainline issues, which sometimes take a little bit, Joe and I talk about a book that the other guy previously recommended on the show. And recently, we've always been trying to guess what the book is that they're going to talk about, but we've started to keep score. Joe won that first round. Neither of us have gotten one right so far. We do have a little point system. We're each going to throw out three books, and we're going to see if we get at least one right, you get a point for that, and then you get 2 points if between those three you pick the number one right one. So Joe, you're going to go first in terms of talking about a book that I have spoken about previously. I am going to throw three guesses out there. I had some notes on this, and of course, I had. Okay, so I had whittled it down to four, and I'm gonna say my four, and then I'm gonna tell you which one I'm gonna chop out, and then we'll go from there. Obviously, the fourth one does not count for anything.
Okay.
So one that was on my radar was Predator versus Wolverine, because obviously you talked about Spider-Man before. That's one. Seven to Eternity, which I talked about very recently. I'm actually going all recent on all of these. Assorted Crisis Events, which you've obviously heard me rave up and down about, and obviously a lot of people in the comic book industry are loving that series. And then the other one is The Missionary, which I talked about. These are all books from the last 10 issues that we did on the show. So I am actually going to cut out the Predator versus Wolverine story as the one on the chopping block. So those are my other three guesses. So Seven to Eternity, The Missionary, and Assorted Crisis Events. Am I correct on any one of those three?
Not even in the ballpark.
God, and it wasn't Wolverine.
No.
Ah, okay. I would have been really, really upset. I almost like didn't.
That would have been tremendous.
That would have been great for the show, but I would have been so upset. Okay. The only other book that was on my radar, but you weren't gonna, I would assume you weren't gonna do, was Punk Rock Jesus, because you talked about that on in our episode with Dork, which obviously 6 issues, you binged the hell out of that and absolutely loved it. Then tell me, Joe, what is the book that you're talking about today?
I would love to have been able to pop the picture up behind me, but with Riverside, we're not allowed to do that once we start recording. Um, Uncanny X-Men, Gail
Oh
Simone,
gosh, you talked to me
David
about
Marquez, Clayton
yeah.
Cowles, Matt Wilson.
Dang, dude, I overthought that one. That one was that's the worst one that I've missed. That's not necessarily true, but that was a tough one. You've put the
Well,
breadcrumbs out there.
I haven't, and I put the breadcrumbs out there. I feel like it was maybe a few weeks ago. It was a month ago because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I reorganized, I renumbered, I got them all like bang in a folder, one through now with issue 25 out this week. So it is like there's been one singular book I've had on my mind to do for this trade. And I'll tell you, I shouldn't say you weren't in the ballpark because the Story Crisis events um, would probably have been the other book if I wasn't so dead set on doing Uncanny X-Men because it is long
Okay.
past due that I've read this book. And it's funny because when I was looking back, the last trade that I did was Rogue and Gambit.
Oh wow. Huh. I
Yeah,
didn't realize that. That's
right.
funny.
Yeah, I didn't either until I went and looked back and I go, oh, there's like a major theme here, right? It's
Yeah.
it's Gail Simone and it's Rogue and Gambit and it's the X-Men. And so I haven't gone through all 25. I'm halfway through though. And what
Nice.
I got to say is that I absolutely loved that first arc with Sarah Gaunt. I
Ooh.
thought that she was so well done, so well drawn. It was such a great story with Rogue and Gambit and Wolverine and the new mutants who have entered the fold. Who I've got to say, you want to take a guess who my favorite one is out of those four kids?
It's either Ransom or it's one of the two dudes. I'm gonna say Ransom.
I love was is it
Death Dream.
Death Catcher? Yeah, the emo kid.
Yeah. Dang it. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love him and I love what's your name that rides the horse there?
Calico.
Calico. Yeah. Those two are my favorite.
Nice.
But I just love the little mopey kid. He just kind of cracks me up,
Yeah,
with
he's
the hair
good.
drawn,
He's
just
he's good.
right. But he's got some badass, like the art on him is absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic. But I love that first arc, and then as I'm reading the second arc, I'm going, oh shit, this is like I remember reading its counterpart, Cyclops' point of view, in the X-Men,
That's right.
right?
Yep.
Right. So I've now got like both sides of that story, and I've been reading it from the other point of view, which I much prefer. I much prefer Uncanny over regular X-Men. And man, I really should have, been reading this all along. It probably would have enhanced, and is going to enhance, my reading of the mainline X-Men story. The thing with X-Men is that there's like 1,000 different X-Men books, and so like for me, it's just always been like, okay, I'm gonna read the main line and maybe I'll read, what like we're reading Cyclops now by Alex Packnadell, but that's sort of its own thing, right? And so now, like going forward, I can't wait to fully catch up and reading both those two titles, simultaneously, because I really do think they enhance each other. At least they have so far. What I've read through Uncanny, but man, Gail Simone's awesome.
Yeah.
And like we've talked about this before, just like her command of Rogue and Gambit, is so well done. But I love how she's been writing Wolverine. You know,
Hmm.
she's giving Wolverine, a bit more depth. I love how she's handling these new, mutants, and what she did with Sarah Gaunt, just absolutely outstanding. So I can't wait to fly through and get fully caught up. Jubilee.
Yeah, dude.
Just like she writes X-Men so well.
Yeah.
And I love it because to know Gail Simone is to know that she likes to get a little naughty every now and then too. Which is a lot of fun.
Yep.
So it's just she's got such great command of these characters, and Marquez's art is just absolutely outstanding.
Hmm.
Matt Wilson's colors, I mean, the whole thing. This is an excellent series.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to chat with her now at some point
Oh,
to talk with
100%.
her about some uncanny stuff. Maybe whenever it's we'll have to keep our eyes peeled. Maybe we'll reach out and whatever. But I so to that end, the there's an issue, and this is not spoiling saying this. There's an issue with where Nightcrawler's birthday pops up.
No.
You'll know when you'll know. It's like not a big deal in the grand scheme of things knowing that detail. There's something in that issue that you are very much going to enjoy. So when you read that issue, like please text me because I want I think you'll know when you see it. But I'm very
Someone gets Nightcrawler a stripper.
you're gonna be you're gonna you're gonna enjoy it. So there's that, and then to go back, I'm really glad you brought up the New Mutants because Gail crushes it with all of the was it the five like legacy X-Men characters that we get.
Yep.
Obviously, she does a great job, and that's not always done. Like so, I very much appreciate that, especially when it comes to Rogue and Gambit, in Wolverine, in all of them. Quite honestly, even Jubilee. But the New Mutants that are in this story, I feel like that's something that you see new characters, like new heroes, get brought into the mix. Like I was just saying about McKay with Moon Knight, he brought in Hunter's Moon, who was a really cool, interesting character. With and then with Gale, where she brings in these four, I feel like that's not something that's always done like in a way that hits. And I'm blown away by how she created four new
Mm.
mutants, and I I personally like Death Dream and Ransom the most, but also like Calico's really good. And honestly, this last issue, like, she was great in this last issue, and then Jitter has like her power concept is awesome. Like I feel like between those four, there's a character in there for everybody, and I think that all four of them are really well done.
What I love about Calico is I just love the art,
Mm,
especially like in these early issues with her horse, right? Ember.
yes,
Just the way it looks. It just looks so awesome,
yeah,
right? Just the colors of it, and it's fierce. And but yeah, Death Dream.
yeah,
He's just, I don't know. I just
he's
like,
awesome.
yeah. He's just like, and again, the art, with especially when he's like using his powers, is really cool. It's really unique. So, um, and yeah, mad at myself. I've waited so long to read it, but I'm like, you know what? Like, if you're gonna do it, Joseph, now is the time,
Yep.
right? And I knew you weren't gonna guess it because typically you always guess recent stuff for the
Hmm.
most part, and I'm always going back and diving into the catalog.
Yeah, I feel like there was a time where you did recent stuff more so and didn't do the old as much. But I could also be misremembering that quite honestly. But yeah, though that was you put the breadcrumbs out there, and I'm annoyed. I didn't go back far. I was like, ooh, like because like you said, sort of crisis events. I was like, Joe's gonna want to check that one out. That was gonna be my number one. Um,
Mm.
because I was like, oh, he's gonna do that one. But yeah. Last thing on Uncanny, if those four characters, if we don't see that team, I'm not saying they should get their own title necessarily. I think they need more time before something like that. But those characters should last beyond Gail Simone's run. Those four characters have a lot of potential, and I would hate to see them never get utilized again
I'd
beyond
agree.
her run. Yeah. All right. What are your guesses for me?
So my guesses for you are Batman Dark Patterns, The Last God, and Lawful,
Okay.
with my pick being Lawful.
Fuck! He did it, everybody. He did it again. He motherfucker. You did it. Yes, I was like Batman Dark Patterns is a good guess. That was definitely among consideration. The other one was not, but Lawful is like I have to do Lawful. Ugh!
I know you
Oh,
better than you know yourself, Nicholas.
yeah, Lawful from Boom Studios, written by Greg Pak with art by Diego Galindo, colors by Imana Navilla, Navilla, and letters by Simon Bolin. A couple of creators who I'm not actually everybody besides Pak I'm not as familiar with on this team, but this book is insanely relevant. And I can't remember if you said this at the time, Joe, but it kind of takes like the Scarlet Letter and twists it around in a couple different ways, and then amplifies that in a massive way. And the main character's name is Sung. His arc hits so hard, and I think it would hit really hard for a lot of people. This was this 8 issues or 12 issues, somewhere in that ballpark of like 8, 10, 12 issues, in that range. And it's perfect. And the fact that this like I haven't seen anything about this being turned into a movie or a show, but the fact no one's chomping at the bit to turn this into a movie or a show is ridiculous to me. This has so much potential, and this was only the two arcs, which is all basically one story, 8 issues long. I thank you. I I mean, I feel like this absolutely had potential to be something more. I don't know if people slept on it or what, but I'll tell you this: when you were reading this, Joe, I was talking about how I had a lot of FOMO around this. It was this title, it was Local Man, and it was World
Mm.
Tree. And as much as Local Man has since gone on pause, and I know we've had our issues with World Tree because it's been just a couple different things going on. I was right to have FOMO about all of them. I, I hesitate to say I was the most right about this, but this may be the one where I was like absolutely most right, because it's just, if you guys check this out, like it's got like it's very of the moment before it was of the moment. It's one of those kind of situations where like not before, but it was like just it lines up so well with like things that are going on, and but it's also like not it's not as like heavy handed either, and I just really appreciate how like it talks about an important subject matter, but it's also escapism at the same time. And I love when you can get that perfect blend. Like that's when you get good shit. But I'm also really glad I got to binge this. I will say that as much as I hated waiting. It just I read this so fast, dude. You were absolutely right. Very much up my alley. Like a very very good book.
Yeah, because it wasn't preachy, but you got the social context right,
Mm-hmm.
and it had sort of again that little bit of religious aspect that
Mm-hmm.
you like without again being overtly like in your face. Like it was just so well done. And and uh yeah, I would like to go back and reread this because I
Mm.
remember reading it monthly and just thinking, man, binging it would be the way, like, so you got to just fly right through and like that turn right halfway through, like once
Mm-hmm.
that first arc ends and then it goes into the second and just
Yeah.
the way that it ends, it's just like it goes from being sort of like a really great fantasy book that, is sort of a social commentary of the class system and right versus wrong, good
Right.
versus evil, rich versus poor, right? And then it just kind of becomes epic,
Yep.
right? And that now it becomes it's a redemption story. It's a phoenix rising from the ashes, right? Sort of thing. Like it goes from being a really good story to then getting kicked up a notch and becoming something a whole lot more. So I was surprised that in the last trade, because I think this was my guess on the last trade as well, or one of the guesses, um, because I just knew it was so much up your alley.
Hmm.
So the Last God was definitely a shot in the dark
Mm.
because when I was going back and taking a look, but I'm like, I know he's into I know he wants to check out dark patterns.
Mm.
And but lawful, like again, I sort of had like blinders on. I'm doing Uncanny X-Men. Nick is doing lawful. I can feel it in my plums. You know.
Yeah, you were spot on. Well done, sir. On all fronts too. Um this is a really it's a really quality story. I mean, you should definitely binge it at some point because it's like go back and read it. I've been trying to do that more. I think I've talked about that, like where it's just going back and looking at stuff with a different perspective. And it's been a little while. Like I didn't do it for Punk Rock Jesus with our Vertigo episode over on #Dork, where we rank those books. If you guys haven't checked that out, go listen to that. But I very much plan on doing that. But it's definitely one of those things where it's like that book is so precious to me. Like I want to reread it, but I'm like, am I gonna do it? So
I'm
but yeah.
now on a quest of. I got to get that book. I got to get a physical copy of that book.
Ooh, I may. They may have that at one of the shops in my area. I will take a look and see if they have that and see if I can snag that for you. I have other stuff that I still have to give you. I have to give you that Crimson Cage copy that you were
Yeah, I
quoted
was
on in the
just
back
about to
of.
say, holy smokes! Now, granted, they gave the credit to Geeks Worldwide instead of Doc, but that's okay.
That's
That's
who you
okay.
wrote it for. Yeah,
Yep, yep,
yeah.
yep.
So awesome stuff. All right, great. So that is gonna do it for us this week. Make sure to subscribe to one of our audio channels if you haven't already, because it's the only place you're gonna find our. Oh, you know what, Joe? I forgot to say off the top. Jeez, I'm sorry that we're saying this at the very end of the episode, everybody. But for the spring, we're gonna roll back, go a little bit later on our stream times. We got so distracted with the Nashville and the honky tonks and the Mulvey of it all.
Gadonks.
Yeah, exactly. We are going to be starting a little bit later on our streams on normal weeks, so that will be at 8:15 p.m. Eastern time on normal weeks for the entirety of the spring. So at some point in June, we'll probably revert back and make some changes. But for right now, we're going to be starting at 8:15 on days though that we have Fireside chats. We'll be letting you guys know, hey, like we're starting a little bit later tonight because we have a Fireside chat because that will pop up on occasion. But as we've said many times, we joke about it, but like it's the truth. We don't know when those are going to pop up because of scheduling, because of creators announcing books, and timing for them, timing for us, whatever. So if you're not following us on one of our social channels, definitely make a point of doing that because it's going to be, if you like to watch us live, it's going to be really important. It's always going to be the case to be important to follow us there in case we have any chats coming up that impact stream times. But that is going to do it for us this week. We definitely have what's new coming up next week. But other than that, can't make any promises. So keep your peepers popped. And until next week, Joe.
Wear your sunscreen.